Presentation on The Book Whisperer by Donalyn Miller. This is Erin Grasso. I am a literacy coach.
I'm Dominique Battle Lawson. I'm an academic advisor.
And I am Laura Fulton, and I am a fifth grade teacher.
Please exit the video and take this pre-test. Thank you. Please take a moment to read an overview of The Book Whisperer in order to see Donalyn Miller's professional trajectory.
The focus questions for this presentation on The Book Whisperer include: how do you create lifelong readers rather than students who only read when instructed to do so by the teacher? How do you organize, plan, and manage your classroom and literacy block to make time for and encourage independent reading? How do you nudge students toward books you know they may like when they are reluctant to try new things? And how can you abandon old, ineffective teaching practices? And with what do you replace them?
Donalyn Miller's The Book Whisperer focuses on the importance of self-selection and independent reading. As a literacy teacher, Miller believes that her ultimate goal is to create readers. In order to make this happen, she advocates for showing students how to embrace reading as a lifelong pursuit and not just a collection of skills for school performance. Miller transformed her own classroom practices by adopting a workshop approach where students are provided with ample time to read, choice in text selection, and opportunities for meaningful text responses. Within her workshop, she is a responsive teacher that makes independent reading a cornerstone of her literacy block. Independent reading time allows readers to apply what they learn during direct reading instruction, build their endurance, and develop a positive reading identity. Through this presentation, you will discover how Miller invites student choice into independent reading, classifies readers with positive language, creates a motivational learning environment, utilizes structures and routines that encourage students to become lifelong readers, and transform traditional practices into more effective alternatives. Within the text, Miller makes arguments for how literacy teachers can develop lifelong readers instead of students that read only to accomplish classroom goals and teacher assignments.
In her first argument, Miller explains that student choice matters. The power to choose books will motivate students to read and help them believe that their choices matter. Through choice, they can explore interests and take ownership of their assignments. Miller explains the importance of student book choice and student engagement in learning.
Choice, empowerment, respect for kids, meeting them where they are as readers. We have to understand that learners in general, no matter their abilities, often seek the same things. We want autonomy, we want empowerment. Brian Camborne, researcher in Australia who spent his career looking at engagement theory, says that learners who lose choices become disempowered. And we need choices that are meaningful, choices that are relevant to the children. So a student who is a developing reader may be reading several years below grade level, but that doesn't mean that their access to text, their access to conversations should be limited to low level guided readers and talking with the teacher at the small group table. They need meaningful reasons to become literate and have those opportunities to connect with other readers in the classroom, to have rich, meaningful, authentic texts to read. Our students who are also avid readers, underground readers who may feel a disconnect between school and their real reading lives uh, need to we need to value that and recognize that these are students who already have many of the literacy skills we are trying to instill in all of our students, and that they need an opportunity to see how far they can go, to be enriched, to be stretched, and to not be held back because they're defined in a box of what the school requirements might look like for reading.
As a literacy teacher, Miller recognizes that the students entering her class have a variety of past reading experiences, some positive and some negative. She urges teachers to use encouraging terms when describing students instead of the popular terms struggling and reluctant. She consistently observes 3 trends with her students and outlines what she believes they need from teachers. First, developing readers. These are the readers who are not reading at grade level, have trouble comprehending their reading, and have received reading intervention services. She believes developing readers need support for where they are in their development and ample time to apply this learning in text. They also need the chance to feel success as readers and be paired with books they can connect to. Dormant readers are students that enter our classrooms with little motivation or interest in reading. They are capable readers. However, they participate in reading only to pass tests and complete assignments. They also run the risk of falling behind students that read on a more consistent basis. Miller notes that these readers constitute the largest segment of readers in her classroom. Dormant readers need a mentor that can show them that reading is engaging. They need to be provided with freedom to make their own reading choices and be given hours of time to spend reading. The final category is underground readers. They are gifted readers, but view the reading they do at school as disconnected from the reading they select to do on their own. They just want to read and have the teacher get out of their way and let them. As educators, we need to look for ways to use their choice books to meet instructional goals. We also need to introduce them to a wide range of text and allow them to read for hours in school. In this video, Miller describes her teaching practices and how she creates a motivational environment for her students.
My early years of teaching, I really became dismayed that the love of reading that I felt and the passion that I felt for it, I was unable to spark that in my students. And I really felt a disconnect between my readerly life outside of school and what reading looked like for my students in school. And I began to ask myself a lot of questions about why should reading look differently at school than it does out in the world. And I believe that we put a lot of conditions and expectations and requirements in place attached to reading for children at school that may in fact be leading them away from reading and not towards it. And so I spent many years reading, thought leaders in reading and writing workshop like Nancy Atwell, Janet Allen, Lucy Hawkins, and really trying to rethink some of my teaching practices in ways that would lead my students toward a lifelong reading habits. And a lot of that involved getting rid of some things that are more traditional, tried and true kinds of practices. So things like reading logs, dioramas, book reports, reading related activities that actually crowd out a lot of reading in the classroom. And over the years, I saw growth with my students. They read a lot. They read, on average, over the past decade, 56 books a child. And that's whether I taught fourth grade or fifth grade or sixth grade.
So in her third argument, Miller explains that the classroom needs to be a motivational environment. Following the conditions for learning established by researcher Brian Camborne, she understands the importance of immersion and opportunities for real reading in class. Students also need demonstrations on the structures and features of different texts and how to read them for different purposes. Expectations and responsibilities of both students and the teacher must be clearly established and practiced. Students must be given time to read and practice skills while also receiving feedback on their work toward mastery of those skills. A classroom must be a place of trust where students see themselves as capable readers and teacher feedback is non-threatening with the goal of improving student learning outcomes.
Teachers must make a time and a place for reading. If there's classroom interruptions, train students to take out their books. Instead of bell ringers and warm-ups, get rid of non-reading activities that waste precious reading time. When students are done, allow students to read. Picture day. Take books with you while you wait. Library time. Go on a regular basis. And model how to find books. Setting goals for the library should require every student to have a book to return, renew, or read. Creating a place for reading does not promote reading. It comes from teachers' expectations, not classroom furniture. Please watch Miller explain how to set high expectations for readers.
The original genesis for the 40 book challenge, which I talk about in the Book Whisperer, was that I wanted my students to really have a high bar for their reading. That number didn't come up randomly. It really came from what was my total influence on the reading lives of my students. 40 weeks, 36 weeks of school, and 4 weeks of school vacation. It's about a book a week. Now, that's a high bar, but if I set a lower bar, if I expect my students to only read 10 books in a school year, they might read a lot less than 10, and they might not start till April. So 40 books meant let's get started, let's get going. We have a high bar. It does cause a little bit of anxiety in children and their parents at the beginning of the year, but once we get into the groove of it, parents and children are really surprised about how much reading they can accomplish. It's also not a contest or a competition. The students are not competing for each other. There are no award ceremonies at the end of the year, no celebrations, no pizza parties over who met the 40 book challenge. The students who, and no punitive grading, so students who read 19 books in a year can be just as successful in language arts class as the students who read 66. The main goal of that challenge is to expose students to a wide range of literature, encourage them to try a little bit of everything so they can become strong, capable readers of just about any text. But I also want my students to try a little bit of everything in the hopes that they find the one thing that really resonates with them as a reader that they might not have found on their own without that challenge to dip their toes in and try something new like poetry or science fiction or nonfiction text. I have seen over the years since the Book Whisperer has come out a lot of corruptions of that idea in a way that I think is actually more harmful for children than it is helpful or supportive. Things like incentivizing the 40 book challenge, creating a competition, or creating a situation where students who may read less than 40 books receive lower grades in language arts class than children who might read more. And that really does not value those true tenets that I originally intended in creating the challenge in the first place. It has to be about meeting children where they are, about really seeing them as readers and moving them along a path towards lifelong reading that values their experiences, their choices, and their unique needs. It's not about putting a number onto something and using that as a marker of reading accomplishment or ability.
This is a glimpse of the 40 book requirement that Donalyn Miller sets as an expectation for each of her 6th grade students. She sets a specific number of books that students must read in each genre, but also allows them to choose 9 from any genre to complete the 40 book total. Miller also cautions teachers that the number of books and genres are not carved in stone and can be changed from year to year to match the needs of the readers.